seem a bit bold, but I
Welcome
am.
home,
And it's
Cojourners.
'cause
I'm glad you're
God
here for
made me
another
so
episode.
that
I'm
I
Dr. Thema Bryant, a
am.
licensed psychologist,
Mind
ordained
wasted
elder, and
thoughts
sacred artist.
waste
And today we're
time
going to be talking about
trying
birthing
to
freedom.
be what
Birthing
I'm
freedom with our
not.
special return guest,
I've
Dr.
watched
Jaiya
the
John. If
world
you have
pass
not
me
heard prior
by.
episodes we have shared with Dr.
It's
John, I
time
encourage
for
you to look
this
back in the archives
madness to
because those are
stop.
definitely a treat. Dr. Jaiya John was orphan born in the high desert of New Mexico and is an internationally recognized freedom worker, poet, author, teacher, and speaker. Jaiya is the founder of Soul Water Rising, a global rehumanizing mission to eradicate oppression. He is a former professor of social psychology at Howard University and has spoken to over a million people worldwide and audiences as large as several thousand. Jaya holds doctorate and master's degrees in social psychology from the University of California, Santa Cruz, with a focus on intergroup and race relations. As an undergraduate, he attended Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, and lived in Nepal, where he studied Tibetan holistic medicine through independent research with Tibetan doctors and trekked to the base camp of Mount Everest. His indigenous soul dreams of fry bread, sweet grass, bamboos in the breeze, and turtle lakes whose poetry is peace. Dr. Jaya John has his own podcast called I Will Read for You, the voice and writings of Jaya John, and you can also follow his work on Substack. I am so excited you are here. Welcome, Dr. Jaya.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thema. I
Yay.
I'm thrilled to
Oh,
be with you today. I know we've been looking to do this for a
yes,
long time now, and life
yes,
has carried us both
right,
forward here to February, and so I'm
yes.
grateful, grateful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, this is a special time, and I'm going to say a timely, relevant moment for this conversation. And I usually start the podcast with a poem. So I'm going to ask if you would read the piece on page 207.
Well,
And
seven of
let me say that Dr. John is reading from the book We Birth Freedom at Dawn, Volume 1. There are two volumes, and I encourage you all to check them both out. But
Mhm.
now I'm in Volume 1, page 207.
Okay, thank you. And that was such a beautiful introduction, by the way. I appreciate that.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. I could go on and on.
That was smooth. That was smooth. I
Yeah.
feel really honored and I appreciate that. Let me make my way to 207, which looks to be near the back of this volume one. Okay. Mm. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Freedom is an ember deep in the soul, cannot be touched by oppression's control. Freedom does not care what violence you bring. Freedom yet dances, freedom yet sings. Down by the river, from the sea, freedom is an unstoppable heartbeat to be, to be. Freedom is a glory divine. Nothing can stop it from fruiting the vine. In the desert, freedom is heat. In the forest, freedom is moss at your feet. When you hunger, freedom is feast. Freedom is the will to risk everything. Freedom is sunrise. Freedom is truth. Behold the persistence of our ancestral love and its shine. You cannot stop us from being beautiful. Freedom is an ember deep in the soul.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I love this piece. In writing, I have all kinds of stars and exclamation marks, but to hear it in your spoken word as you pour that medicine out, it is so rhythmic and engaging and really an invocation. And tell us, as you were writing this, of all the things for you to call for us to birth, why freedom?
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. Why freedom? Well, I would say that my entire life from the beginning. freedom has been the strongest burning fire inside me. Freedom collectively for us on earth as humankind, as all living things, ever since I was a child in New Mexico. I just really, in a very deeply empathic way, beheld, witnessed the way in which we treat ourselves and treat each other on this earth. And it's always heartbroken in some ways and also heartened in others, joyful, hopeful. And I just felt that freedom is the thing that we are all together yearning for. The absence of freedom at the root of our suffering. So as we came around to uh, 2023, which was when the majority of these pieces for this 2 volume book began to come through me, um, I felt more than ever that we were yearning for freedom. We were suffering from very rampant, acute, and chronic oppression places. These were horrors that were unfolding right before our eyes. And although I had birthed the book Freedom Medicine Words for Your Brave Revolution in 2020, this felt like sort of the offspring of that flow. And the title just felt like, now is the time for us to birth. We've been gestating and gestating this freedom through generations, through ancestral eras. And it's time for us to break out into a whole new season, let's say, in which we really learn what it means to be free. As
Mhm.
Nina Simone sang, I
Yes.
wish I knew what it felt
Yeah.
like to be free.
Mm. Wow. I will say there are a number of things we have in common: psychology, poetry, and ministry.
Mhm.
And in your forward, when you describe the title, this last paragraph in the forward that starts with "This title is a declaration" feels very sermonic to me. So I would just love for you to read that. It doesn't have a page number, but it's in the.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's sermon. Let's sermon.
Yes.
Okay, so this is in the beginning of both volumes, and the words are: This title is a declaration and decree, a promise and prophecy, an awakening and activation, a chant, ceremony, remembrance song. To speak and feel this title is to call forth this freedom alive within each of us. Freedom is stirring, nascent. Soon the fawning sprout gets the forest, and the raindrop gets the river. I pray these words bring back from the brink any edge, despair, fear, hopelessness, terror, to allow us to see, feel, and be what is coming, and indeed what has always been here in the fertile earth of our sacred architecture. These words are prayer.
Yes, my God, these words
Mhm.
are prayer. Oh, I love that. And, one of the themes throughout the book, probably both volumes, is the need for us to move from soullessness to
Mm,
soulfulness. Can you
mm.
describe what those two terms mean and how we make that move?
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, soullessness, I've spent my life just really paying attention to studying what are the impacts of various forms of oppression of a human being, particularly our human soul. What I have witnessed is that oppression, whether that's in the form of interpersonal violence, collective violence, such as colonialism, apartheid, enslavement, caste systems, oppression has this effect on us where it siphons out our soulfulness. It
Mm.
buries it underneath a sediment of fear and trauma.
Yeah.
No one wants to be in pain, and oppression is a violent form of painfulness. And so, over time, whether that's over the course of days, months, years, a lifetime, generations, we sort of surrender our soulfulness so that we can escape pain and suffering. What we don't see in the moment, though, is that by surrendering our soulfulness, we are in fact moving more deeply into our own pain and suffering. And so, soullessness to me is the outcome, it's the consequence, it is what is produced by oppression. It is when a people, we lose who we truly are on a personal level, on a collective level. We lose the intimate umbilical with our spiritual source, our spiritual well being, our spiritual persona, which exists in our ways of relating to one another in family and friendship and community. That persona exudes itself in our art, in our creativity, our song and dance, music, ways of gathering and being together, even in our restfulness. We are sourcing a kind of spiritual edict which says to remain well and in balance,
Mm.
stress. And so
Yeah.
what happens with oppression is we move into soullessness. Now the exodus out of oppression necessarily involves us remembering what it means to be soulful. Because we
Mm.
never lose our soul, we just forget that we are soul. We operate
Ah.
out of begin to operate out of the primitive mind, which is sort of a robotic mind that is
Mm.
impulsive and driven by cortisol and adrenaline. So in our exodus into liberation, what it is we are stirring the embers of remembrance,
Mm.
remembering when we were whole in the way that we existed. Our essence is always whole, but the way in which we existed once was whole. And so we're remembering, you know what? We are soulful beings before we are anything else. Let us reclaim, let us declare that now is the time we are going to be together in soulful ways. We're going to exist within our own personal self in soulful ways. This requires rituals and ceremonies and habits and routines, embodiment, somatic practices, affective practices, exhortation, exaltation. It really requires us to learn again how to release, how to be fountains and fonts and waterfalls and rivers and streams and oceans, fluidity, the energetic grace, the energetic grace.
Mm. Oh.
Because, yeah, I would say that soulfulness binds us up inside. It
Mm.
calcifies us. It blocks us. So we become like those water balloons stuck on the faucet and we swell
Mm.
because we are meant to release and we're not releasing.
Mhm.
All of that pressure manifests as disease processes in us.
Yes.
Anxiety, depression, violence, and also rejection of our self worth and sacredness.
Mhm. Oh, thank you so much. I especially appreciate the part about us not having lost our souls. We just lost sight of it, or lost sight
Hmm.
of ourselves. And so that reclaiming and
Claim
yeah,
yourself, reclaim
reclaim
yourself.
yourself, reclaim yourself. I love it. Now, two of the pathways you talk about in terms of how we birth freedom are the sacred and also the arts. So on page 89, can you read this piece, which is really a combination of, I would say, the sacred arts?
Sacred arts. I love that language. Page 89.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a brief passage, and it says, when you make art, you are praying. You are in communion with something within and beyond you. You let go of control so that a mystery may come. Is this surrender, not faith? Are you, in your birthing, not ceremony yourself? You are such a beautiful poetry. May you recite yourself.
Mm. May you recite yourself, and I'm gonna add on what I feel is just a perfect connector. On 182, you say, may you have clarity of soul today, that you be medicine for the world and not malice. May you have clarity of soul today, that you
Mm,
be medicine for the world and not malice. And in an earlier conversation we had, you were talking about being poetry as opposed to writing or doing poetry.
mhm.
So, can you talk about what it means for us to live out our essence in terms of the being instead of just the busyness of doing or the monotony of doing or the obligation of doing?
Mm. Busyness, monotony, and obligation.
Mhm.
So these are energies, these are assignments that society burdens us with. We learn from a young age to vacate our own beingness, so when we are newborn, when we are infants, when we are toddlers, when we are young children, at that time, often we are in our optimal condition of just being. And gradually, due to the various sanctionings of life, we shrink back from that, we vacate that, we flee we flee our own beingness. In fact, we can watch it happen with a child. They move from being able to completely inhabit themselves with joy and wonder and awe and magic and mystery and mystique and just spend all day long just enjoying life. Enjoying meaning to infuse themselves with life and joy. And they gradually become us, our condition, which is one that is operating in response to external expectations, pressures, and also the narratives that we internalize, right? And
Mhm.
so, beingness, if we want to really take a moment and feel what it means to be, then all we have to do is remember those moments in life when we feel so Mm, without worry and concern, without objective and intention. And we're just flushed with with joy, with excitement, with wonderment. We feel the energy, running through our cells and molecules. So I would say the beingness is a can be reflected in not only positive emotions either, but just the purity of whatever we are feeling and allowing it to flow. So beingness is often a condition of just being in our intuition, our instinct. For an athlete, they're just in that flow. They're not thinking their way through their their endeavor. They're just letting sort of loose from the mind, just letting their heart and their spirit play. Right, an actor who's forgetting about the script and just losing themselves in the character they are learning to be. Um,
Mm.
Someone coming out of an abusive relationship has to
Mhm.
remember how to be because
Yeah.
abuse and harm cause us not to be but to perform
Mhm.
and produce
Yeah.
um, so as to avoid harm and pain
Yeah.
as opposed to beingness is which is just a release. Actually, it's a
Mhm.
letting down of walls and protective devices. And it's just, even if it's grief, even
Mhm.
if it's grief, we can purely be in that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when we look at societies or cultures that um, may have retained more of their indigenous aspects in terms of prioritizing relationship with all living things and relationship with the land and with each other, relationship before productivity,
Mhm.
okay, before conquest, before control. When we see these kinds of cultural personas playing out, we see people who are more easily able to just be. And then when we look at those societies or cultures where there's a very intense emphasis on productivity, on materialism, on acquisition, acquiring, hoarding, status, control, power, these things, then we see people who really struggle to even know what it feels like to be, to be. And to me, I've always found my great teachers and examples in nature. So I spent a lot of time observing how the sky and clouds and trees and animals and birds are able to just be, the rivers is able to be. And the more we immerse ourselves in that stillness, inner stillness, even if it's by activity, there's an inner stillness. The more we immerse in that energy, the more we become that energy because we are so
Mm.
permeable and impressionable. And, we have osmosis as a part of our design.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful and also so necessary. And that is the way the entire book, both books flow. And if I could summarize, I would say, you describe us birthing freedom through community by being a part of collective, not isolated, by expressing our art, expressing ourselves, reconnecting with our souls, and then truth telling, reclaiming truth, which is you talk about as home in the short story you end with for Ashia. So I'm
Mm.
going to ask if you would close us out by reading page 168 for those who are looking at the condition of things and wondering what in the world they can do to birth freedom.
Page 168.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So again, this is just a brief expression, 68, and it simply says, you may wonder, what do I have to offer this moment of truth, this moment on earth? The moment answers, who are you? Bring that to the fire. Bring it all.
Mm. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And then you say on 206, you see, I can't let go, but I'm really trying. You say on 206, you
Yeah.
have been banished from your own heart, made homeless. These words are flowers. You perceive them as arrows. You are conditioned for war, and so you are tortured, haunted, for any warring soul is sold to agony. And yet, even now, something warm like summer breeze moves through your heart. This is love inviting you to come home. What?
Oh.
Yes. This is amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
And
I feel like we need to have your voice reading the audiobook. Okay.
oh,
That was
look,
beautiful.
a dynamic duo because
Yeah.
I love your pieces and love to hear you read them. The very last thing I'll say, and I'll really ask this for a brief response, but
Mhm.
when you say we birth freedom at dawn, dawn implies soon. So, you know, are you feeling soon, or how do you hold on to hope for people who it feels like freedom is a long way away?
Thank you. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I feel this is an important point for us to end on. There are aspects to freedom, right? It's not an absolute thing where one day you have it entirely and another day you don't. And so
Mhm.
I feel like we need to always be birthing it.
Mm,
Freedom has so many elements to it. And so there are aspects of freedom that are available to us in this very moment. For example, if we breathe deeply, we
mm,
exhale deeply and inhale deeply. If we
mhm,
hold our bodies, as though we love them. If we come back into our bodies somatically, if we embody peace, if we go walk out in the wilderness, these are all forms of experiencing freedom. Now, societal freedom is and global freedom is a journey that can absolutely take generations. So because we need endurance for such a journey, it's important for us to be rooting ourselves in those things that fortify us, that heal us, that endow us with love, and hope and promise, resilience. We have our things. We know what those things are that strengthen us, that are our nutrition and nourishment. And so we need to really consider what can I and what can we do to really prepare ourselves for the long journey ahead. Of course, part of that preparation again, it's circular, as in all things are in life are circular. And so part of the preparation is to simply experience as much in the moment freedom that we can together.
Jaiya John, I'm going to have to play the replay because was wiped out when you said, hold your body like you love it. What? Okay. Then I just had to chew on that.
Hold your body
Oh,
like a lover. I mean, come
yes,
on, we
that's
gotta,
beautiful.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
and for us to breathe in each moment to birth freedom, that it's continuous. So on that note, I will say thank you and encourage people to go to your website, jayajohn.com, to purchase your 21 books, amazing books. And also that you offer soulful sessions, phone sessions to help people on their sacred path, on their artistic path, with their personal growth and development. And also, they can subscribe to your Substack, follow you on Instagram at Jaiya John. So, thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome, and bless you for this sacred space and this sacred moment always. And I have to say, oh, beautiful, beautiful. Congratulations for your newborn book.
Oh, thank you so much. So, you all, if you don't know,
Yeah.
Matters of the Heart is coming out this week. And so we encourage you to get both. We birth freedom at dawn and Matters of the Heart. And we invite your soul to tell your heart, mind, body, and spirit, welcome home.